You have a Stanley, you basic bitch.
Yes. And
a real one
is filled with 40 ounces of DP, baby. And I don't mean double penetration. I mean
Dr. Pepper.
Dr. Pepper.
Shut up.
That is my crystal meth. Okay.
There's some interview where some guy is drinking like a huge pitcher and it's full of Kool-Aid. He's like a 40-year-old man and he's like, you're drinking Kool-Aid? And he was like, I always drink Kool-Aid like this.
Why not?
Fucking child.
Dr. Pepper. I love Dr. Pepper.
2 cans.
I love Dr.
2 cans fit perfectly.
Oh my God, I love this.
I know.
What else is in there?
Just DP.
Oh, okay. All right.
I love how you call it DP, not double penetration. I know what you're thinking.
No, I read a lot of books with DP. It's not. It's Dr. Pepper.
Can I go into that?
Oh, go into it.
I need to know about this. Hold on. Okay.
We'll go into it.
All right. Mm-hmm. Are you introing? I feel like you need to.
Okay. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another trip report.
Yes.
I don't think I've gotten to say that.
No.
Okay, so I'm very excited.
Let's talk about what a trip report is.
Okay.
If they're just now listening.
Okay, go into it.
Oh, me. So we're just talking to people about their trips.
Share. Okay. Share that Instagram post that you...
Oh, yeah. So there was an
Sent
Instagram
us.
post a couple weeks ago, and it was, I don't remember what the page was, but it was somebody talking about how it was annoying to hear people talk about like their psychedelic trips. Every fucking comment underneath that, like hundreds of comments.
Every
are
single
like,
one.
What are you talking about? That's like my favorite part. Like, tell me all the details. I want to know where you did it, how you did it, who you did it with, how much you did, what you did. Like, every comment was like, that's not annoying at all. And honestly, like, I love hearing them too. So
Yeah.
our listeners like want more of like the real live stories. And so we're going to deliver.
Yeah. So today we have with us Alyssa.
That's me.
Hi, Alyssa.
Hi.
I call her Allie.
Can I call her Allie?
Totally.
You can call me whatever you want.
Yeah.
Apparently, I have
Allie.
a very difficult name because I get Alice, Allison, Alicia.
It's like me. I
Allie.
get like Chrissy, Christina, Chris. I'm like, no, just Christine.
A girl at work called me Jessica. I went, I'll go with it. Whatever.
Jessica.
Yeah. So I'm really excited about this episode. I've known Allie for
6 years, maybe?
7
7 years?
or 8.
We go back to 9 round.
Yeah. We go two boxing gyms that I managed. She started out as a member, and then she ended up becoming a trainer and a friend. And so we have an interesting story we'll get into today. But I just want to go kind of back and tell us a little bit about you and your story, your trauma.
This is going to be a 3-hour episode.
Tell me everything.
Should have made a PowerPoint. So I grew up in a very religious household. My grandfather was a pastor of a Baptist church in Illinois. And then my dad was a youth pastor. Mom worked at the church, worked at the Christian school that they started. Grandma was the choir teacher, the band teacher, right? Like just totally everything was religion growing up in church. I would go to Sunday school in the morning on Sundays, and then church, and then Sunday night church, and then Wednesday night church, and then Thursday night Bible study, and
Wow.
chapel every day, and like that whole thing. And, you know, at the time, that's all my friends did that. I didn't really have friends like at the public school and whatnot, so that's all I knew. And then went to an extremely conservative college, like even more conservative than the way I grew up. Like had to wear skirts all the time.
Where was this college?
In Pensacola, Florida, Pensacola Christian College, and there was about like 5,000 or 6,000 students in there, and so it was like big enough that I had never experienced like that many like boys and people and friends, but then it was all like Like, we could not go, boys and girls couldn't go in the same elevator. We had separate elevators.
I was going to say, I think that's the same college, but I don't think it is because they didn't wear skirts.
That who went to?
That I told you that story the other day.
Oh, okay. Yeah, we can't repeat that.
Okay. Why not?
Okay, repeat it.
No, not now, but we'll get to it.
No, we'll get to it.
Okay.
Not the same school because they did not wear skirts.
Oh, yeah. We wore skirts all the time. Like,
Long skirts.
long skirts. Yeah. Had to be like to the knee. Like, had to go, again, chapel every day, required Bible classes, like the whole.
You were in it.
So did you do the typical college experience where you partied?
No, like I tried a little bit, but it was so nerve-wracking because
Oh my God, the stress of it.
the stress was insane.
Getting caught.
And it was like, because people would just tattle. And I mean, I'm serious, like you could have a friend for all 4 years and think they're the best friend. And then your senior year, they would like tell on you and you get kicked out. I got kicked out.
I know. We'll go into that.
Shut up.
We'll go into that.
But it was just like,
They're just doing right by God.
yeah. But I didn't want to go there. It was kind of like a told, forced kind of a thing. Like, we're not going to pay for college unless you go there. And I was like, well, whatever.
So was that a lot of your life? Like your life got planned out for you, who you should be?
You are going to play the trumpet. I don't want to play the trumpet. Well, that's what we do. And you're going to play the piano. I don't want to play the piano. Well, that's what we do. And you have to lead the Bible study and you have to do this. And you're going to go to this college and you're going to go here and you're going to go here. And I was just like, okay. And yes, like didn't want to be a nurse at all. I wanted to do athletic rehabilitation and get like a pre-physical therapy degree and go on. And it was like, well, that's not very smart. You just do this instead. And I had like couldn't stand up for myself. I thought that if I was just like the best girl that I could be, like got my straight A's and played all my sports.
Good girl.
I was a good girl. I was a very good girl. Then finally I'd be like, Alyssa, you've been so good for so long. Like now you can do whatever you want. And it never turned into that. It was just do more and do more. And it was like I went to college and I'm in nursing school, which is very difficult no matter where you go. I was playing volleyball and working. I had to work still while I was there. And it was still, I'd go home and it was like, well, are you singing in the choir?
It was never enough, no matter how much you did, how good of grades you got, how well you did in sports.
Nope. It was just more. It was just like never enough, which mixed in with the religious, you know how it is when you're in the Christian circle, it's you're unworthy, you're sinful. You
should be ashamed of yourself.
You don't deserve anything that God has given you. It's only by God's grace that you're here and you're on this earth and you can go to heaven. You are worthless. You are, over and over and over again, I was told that I was worthless and a sinner and all this stuff. And so I was just like clawing to be the best that I could be. And then every time I do something good, it was, good job. What's next? What's more?
And you were really hard on yourself about your body, right?
About everything. Yes.
How could you not be?
Right.
Like, I've got some fucked up religious trauma, but like, I was the one who kind of like was like, fuck this.
Yeah.
I'm not doing this shit.
It was so, and see, the thing is, I had that whole mentality. It was so deep down, and I did not feel safe enough to like be bold and bring it out. Like, I didn't even have a friend that I could be like, hey, I'm questioning my religion. Because I would question so bad. They would, I'd go to Bible class and I'd be like, what is this? Like, I don't agree with any of this. This is not what I believe. And I had no one to talk to. Absolutely no one. And so it was like, I had all of these feelings and like questions and all this swirling around deep down, and I could not bring it up. And I just continued. I was like, well, maybe if I just squashed it more, like it'll go away. And I mean, that was started when I was like 15, 16 years old, where I was like, I'm not really down with all this. And I squashed it until I was about 25.
This is like, I don't think people understand how strong of a hold this type of conditioning can have on someone. Like your inner voice, like your inner critic, like your desire to like fit in and do good. And this whole time you were like not once able to do something for yourself.
Well, because you were choosing connection.
Yes.
With your family.
Yes.
Over your own authenticity. Over 100%. And over and over again.
I think that's natural.
Right. And no kids choose that.
Like they will always choose connection over disconnection.
Yes. Like I thought, and there was always kind of this underlying, like, you know, there was no sex before marriage and there was none of that. And there was this, if you do, you're going to get kicked out. We're not going to, you know, you're going to have to go somewhere else. And that was paralyzing to me, that I would like not be around my family. I would get kicked out and I'd have to like figure things out on my own. Like I could not do anything on my own. I was so needy and like needed other people. And so I just was like, I have to stay in line and do everything that they say because I can't function on my own. I can't function.
It teaches so much codependency.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's one of those things where it's not, and I say this in therapy whenever I go to therapy a lot, where I'm like, well, you know, my parents didn't beat me and I wasn't like, you know, molested as a child. So it's not that bad. And my therapist is like, okay, your brain isn't like the trauma that you experience. Your brain isn't going like, oh, well, compared to other people's trauma. She was like, your brain is experiencing your trauma in your moment, in your frame of reference. And she was like, it's trauma. Whether you were beat or whether you were like your mom made pancakes for you every morning, she was like, you still have trauma in your life. It was just like this subtle, consistent little bits every single day instead of like big, major, huge things in my life. And I was like, okay.
And I think a lot of people do what you do.
They gaslight themselves into thinking it could be worse.
Yep. Because I don't know how many people have said, well, yeah, but you were abused. I wasn't.
Right.
And I'm like, I mean, you're right, but also like we know what we know, and if that was very painful to you, that's still trauma. Like it's not the severity of the event, it's what it did inside of you.
Mm-hmm.
So we were talking yesterday with Louisa while I was getting my tattoo. I think it was before you got there, how like the psychological effects of this type of trauma is so much harder to heal than physical abuse. And I am not saying that that is also not a bad thing. Like, but so many people compare the two. Like, well, getting beat is worse.
Yes.
And like bruises heal. And I understand that there's still some psychological damage done there. But this is so small and minute, and over time builds up to this. How old are you now?
How old am I? 33.
I had to think about that.
Like these years of conditioning, and imagine having that realization that you probably had with your therapist where you're like, oh my God, it was trauma.
Yes.
It was abuse. It was psychological. It was mental. How the fuck am I going to fix 30 years of this shit?
It feels sometimes when I sit there and think about it, and like it may seem a little dramatic, but I'm like, I feel like I underwent psychological torture for
I don't think you're
years.
underdoing it
Not at all.
at all.
Years.
And I think a lot of people can relate to that when they see it.
Yeah.
They have to see it first.
And it was from it wasn't like it was just coming from my mother or it was just coming from my father. It was my mother, my father, my grandparents on both sides. Both sides of my family are religious. So every time I was around an aunt or an uncle, my friends, all of their parents, every volleyball coach, basketball coach, young woman in the church that I thought that I could trust, it was like they would say something else to just reiterate. It was every single person in my life. I did not have one single safe person in my life that I could say, like, I'm questioning. I don't know. You know, things like I just recently discovered I'm bisexual. Who would have known? I don't know, because I didn't, in high school, I had feelings and I couldn't figure it out. And there was no one I could go and talk to about that.
Holy fuck.
And it was just like, and I've talked to Christine about it. I think the big thing with me was the purity culture in Christianity is with my body. I was so obsessed with my body all the time, right? Like, of course, then also, I mean, I was in high school from 2004 to 2008, which was what, you know, Kristen Dunst and Keira Knightley, and like that was
skinny.
heroin,
Britney
chic,
Spears.
and, yes,
I
like,
was just
skinny.
talking to Tony about heroin and cocaine chic
And
the
Kate
other
Moss.
day. And Kate Moss, because we were bringing up Kate Moss, and I was like, you know, cocaine chic, and he's like, what?
Yes.
I was like, you didn't have to know that.
That's what it was at like the peak of high school for me. And here I am. I'm like, have these triple D's, and I got a booty, and I got thighs. I play volleyball, and I'm a softball catcher, right? So I've always been curvy and thick. Like in that day and age, I would have been an Instagram baddie. But like,
You would have been posting
So thick.
thirst traps,
Juicy.
thick with 3 C's. Thick with 3 C's.
BBL who?
Thick BBL who? You were the BBL before the BBL
I was
came.
natural BBL. That was me. But I didn't fit in that mold back then. I didn't know how to live in my body. And of course, you're 15, 16 years old, right? Who's not horny at 15, 16 years old? But it was so like, you can't touch yourself. You can't hug guys. When you hug guys, like you're pressing your boobs up against them and that's sexual. You can't do that. So no hugging guys and like, do not touch yourself and do not listen to get all in. Do you know it took me until I was in college to wear tampons because I felt shame like putting my hand down there. Felt shame. At one point I was convinced, I told my friends, I don't think I have a hole because I couldn't find it. I would just like try to blindly shove a tampon in.
Did you not take anatomy?
That doesn't really exist.
I don't think they teach, even the sex ed classes I took didn't really teach that type of stuff.
That's very true. That's very true.
Didn't go. I was never taking the gynecologist because you only go to the gynecologist if you have birth
having
control,
sex.
and you only get birth control if you're having sex, and good girls don't have sex. So I didn't go to the gynecologist until I was about 22 years old, and I cried like a baby the whole time. Right? Didn't use tampons until I was in high school, just in like shame, like total shame with touching myself or anything like that. Of course, like I said,
Did you do it anyway?
No.
Oh, okay, that's
not
right.
until college. Okay. Not until college. And then I was like, wait a second.
This feels
What have I been missing?
nice.
If this is wrong, I don't want to be right.
It was just so much shame. And like, I think I've told you this story. I have very large breasts, always hated them, right? And then I was really, really skinny still in high school. I had the same size boobs. And I got very sexualized, whatever, it was going to happen. And so I was forced to wear like large and extra large t-shirts to try because everything it's too tight. It's too tight. I was like, I mean, I'm built like China the wrestler. Like, of course it's going to be too tight. Like, come on. And so I was like always wearing like oversized t-shirts and I hated it. And so I met this girl at a volleyball camp, and she was like 16, and she had gotten a breast reduction. And
I remember the story.
Oh my God, I didn't know that was a thing. I can do that? Because I used to wear like 3 sports bras, like was wearing, because I couldn't ask for a binder, And so I was like wearing ace bandages. I would wear 3 sports bras, anything to try and make them flatter. I was so ashamed of them. And I went to my mom, and I was like, Mom, this girl got a breast reduction. Like, she's 16, and she did it. And I was like, if I did that, then like, I hate them. They're uncomfortable. They hurt. And like, I won't be sexualized. And her response was, no, because your husband's going to love those one day. And it just taught me at 16, my body is not mine. It belongs to a future man.
Holy fuck.
It's not mine. And it was that kind of stuff, just constant. And so, I got married at 22 because I thought, this is the first guy that has told me that he loves me, and I'm not going to find it again. Like, and this is what I did. He's nice, right? Like, he doesn't beat me, and he's nice.
Yeah.
And
He's a Christian.
He's a Christian. He's a very hard worker. So he and I are going through a divorce, but we are still very good friends. It's very amicable, and there's no hard feelings between us. But
I love that. And your parents probably loved him.
Yes,
because he was a Christian.
Adored him.
Nice.
And he is a very good guy. He really is. Like, he is the hardest worker I've ever met. And it was like, he's such a hard worker, and he's so selfless, and he's going to be good to me. And that's probably the best I can do. So we'll just say yes.
And you guys met in college, right?
In college, yes.
How was dating somebody in that type of college?
It wasn't dating. I call it PCC dating, which people don't understand. PCC is a college I went to. So it's a term that we would use when they'd be like, are you dating? We're like, well, we're PCC dating, which was code for like, we go to church together and we go to dinner together. And then like, you would hang out maybe like in the, the common areas, but that was it. We weren't allowed to go off campus together. We did sometimes, but you had to have a chaperone, and like, yeah. We would sneak off sometimes, but then of course, when you sneak off and you're so anxious about getting caught and you only have a little bit together, we were just having sex. So it was like we'd sneak off and we'd have sex really quick and then we'd like go back. And so we didn't have really a relationship. We dated for 5 months and then got engaged. After 5 months.
Baby.
I was a baby. And I was just so desperate, like for love or connection or someone to just see me for who I was. And it was like I had no safe space. I had nobody that I could just go to and like at the end of the day just like be like, oh my God, this is how I'm feeling. And it was hard because I didn't go into my marriage with the right intentions.
But you didn't have the right tools in your toolbox.
Didn't have the right tools, no.
So.
And it was really bad. And I don't mean to say this because the last thing I want to do is embarrass him. And I don't want to hurt him at all. And we've had this discussion a lot, but it was bad. Like we were having a lot of sex before we got married, which of course, like we just talked about, you're 21. It was like, oh my God, yes, I want to have sex. And then the moment we would, it was all my religious upbringing would just totally overwhelm me. And I would just curl into a ball, totally disassociate, like so racked with guilt over the fact that I wanted it and then I said yes. And then I'm just like, that was so wrong. But then deep down, my actual inner self is going, it's not wrong, Alyssa. It's fine.
But didn't you say something to your parents?
I did.
Okay.
I did. It was graduation, my senior year. We were engaged. So I was graduating in May. We were getting married in June. So this is like 3 weeks before my wedding.
Wow.
I was so racked with guilt. Like I wasn't sleeping. I wasn't eating. I had lost so much weight that my wedding dress didn't fit anymore. And they were like, you have to eat to gain weight to fit into this. And so I sat my parents down and I don't know why. I was just like, Steven and I have been having sex before marriage. Like, I know I'm not supposed to. Like, I had the whole promise ring shebang, the whole thing. And I was like, and now that I look at it, I think I wanted them to tell me, okay, you can't get married. Because I didn't want to get married. I was having a lot of doubts. And it's like I wanted them to tell me, like, okay, you can't get married then. And I would go, oh, okay, I got to call it off. And I didn't. And it wasn't me. I didn't hurt his feelings. But instead, my parents went, it's okay, we understand. And I was like, no, you don't understand. They're like, no, we understand because we did that too. And I was like,
all
wait,
this whole time you've been teaching me?
Yes. And I was just like, what the fuck?
Oh my God.
It was, and it's kind of one of those, when Christine and I talked about this too, they did the best with what they were given, and they did the best with what they had, and I think they just it was their way of trying to keep me safe from teen pregnancy or whatever, I don't know, or maybe they knew that I was a very sensitive Sally growing up, and that if, like, for me, sex is a very personal, emotional type of thing, and if I have it, I connect, I get a little clingy with that person. I can't just, like, to me it's not like whatever. So I don't know if it was their way of protecting me, I don't know, but it was just like, oh my God, I've been racking myself with guilt. And the whole time, like, all you guys could have said is like, it's okay. We did, we understand, it happens.
The fact that you just said, like, that was your way of connecting with people because you've never experienced, like, true connection. It was always like, if I don't do this, they're going to disconnect.
Because there was a lot of, when having sex when we were dating, it was a lot of, if I don't, he'll break up with me. If I don't give him a blowjob, he's going to get mad. And if I don't do this, like, I have to keep him happy. And there was never any physical, like, he never threatened me, or it was nothing, like, and I was never even afraid of that. Like, I never even flinched in his presence. But there was still that deep down in me where, like, if I don't do everything I'm supposed to do as a good Christian wife, he's going to leave me. He's going to walk away. He's going to divorce. And then it was like I was so tangled up with the fact, like, do I want him to? I don't know. I just wanted somebody so bad.
Yeah.
And it was, I've said this in therapy a lot too, is that I feel like everything with me is like just like a tangled up necklace, like a tangled up chain. And I'll, like, pull on one piece and, like, okay, you've got it figured out. Like, you didn't really want to be with him. So this, and then every time I do it, it's just like I'm making the knots tighter. And I just, like, everything was so tangled. I just remember being like 22, 23 years old and being so confused and tangled all the time with what I really wanted, what I really needed, with religion, with marriage, with, I mean, I was 22 years old and trying to figure all that out. And I quite like just paralyzed myself. Right. And so when we got married, we moved here. I'm not from here. I grew up in Illinois. We moved here. I'd only been here like twice. I had no friends. I had no job. I had no family. And his job at the time took him out of town. So we got married, and a couple weeks later, he went to Nebraska for 6 weeks. I laid in my house on the couch and I did not move. I didn't do anything. I would take huge doses of Benadryl to make myself sleep so that I wouldn't have to worry about doing anything else.
Wow.
And we lived a mile from a Kroger, and I could not go to the grocery store. There were times where I would go like 2 to 3 days without eating, or I would eat like saltine crackers and like fucking ketchup because I could not go to the grocery store. I could not get up. I could not get out of the house. I would just lay on the couch for sometimes 18, 19, 20 hours.
So you just fell into a deep, dark depression.
Yes. Yeah. And and that lasted for a long time. And then unfortunately for him, because he didn't grow up in a very emotionally, what's the word I'm looking for? Like his household.
Emotionally safe or intelligent.
Intelligent. Yeah. They didn't talk about emotions. They didn't talk about that. It was more of like
So he didn't know what to do.
No, so he would come home. But then also, you're newly married and you've been gone for 6 weeks. You come home. What's the first thing your husband wants to do when he walks in the door? Let's have sex with you. And I would just lay there. And it was painful, and I would just cry, and I just wouldn't do anything. And it was just, I felt just like a shell of a person for years. And then finally at 25, it was something like, I cannot live like this anymore. Like, I just cannot fake my way through every Sunday at church. I can't do my hair and my makeup on Sunday mornings and go sit through church. And I hate every little bit of this. And I had attempted suicide once at 17 when I was in high school. And then I attempted again when I was 21. That's a whole other story. I was in my room at home for Christmas break, and I was cutting my wrists, and I had cut one and was working on the other one, and my mom came in my room, and she saw me because we didn't knock in our house ever.
The story.
And she came in my room, and she saw me. And she just started wailing and crying and wailing and calling for my dad. And she came over and she took the razor out and just crying and crying and crying and put me in bed, prayed over me, and she's crying. And I'm just kind of dazed in and out of it, because I was so emotionally overwhelmed that I'm not disassociated, the whole thing. She put me in bed. She prayed over me. And we've not spoken about it ever again.
Holy fuck.
She didn't take me to the hospital.
No therapy.
I was not taken anywhere. Nothing.
No, what's going on?
Nothing.
Fuck.
I know you've evolved and grown and have really worked hard on this healing journey, but it does make me feel so much compassion and empathy for that little girl.
Yeah, every style, I thought this was supposed to be funny.
It will get funny, I swear to God. She's really funny.
All of this trauma makes me funny.
It makes your humor so spicy.
I'm feeling the amount of loneliness.
Yes.
That you had to have felt
yes, truly.
Insane.
And that was the one thing, and the funny thing, I literally just had therapy yesterday, and that was, I'm doing EMDR therapy, so a lot more of this stuff is coming up too. And I remember the first time when I was 17, it was on spring break of my senior year when I tried to commit suicide, and that was the overwhelming feeling was loneliness. I had 5 very good girlfriends in high school that had been friends since kindergarten, because we all grew up together. And it was spring break, and I was sitting at home alone, and I just remember thinking, I cannot call any of them. I could not call even my best friend who I'd known since kindergarten. I did not feel like I could call her in that moment. It was the most overwhelming feeling of loneliness I have ever experienced in my entire life.
Holy shit.
And that just, so when, I went to college, it was I just clung to everybody. And it turned into this kind of oh, you're a popular girl. You have so many friends. And it's I was just almost like grabby hands. Like anybody that would give me attention, I was just clinging to them. I would go on so many dates with guys. I would go to lunch with one guy and dinner with another. And then it became like, oh, she's a tease. And I was like, no, I just am looking for something, for someone. And I didn't know what it was. And then all of a sudden, like I said, I graduated college and boom, you're in a house alone by yourself with no one.
Can you share about how you got suspended really quick?
So stupid.
Lighten the mood a little bit. Shit.
I was a junior in college and I was dating my husband. And my brother, he's a year older than me, and he was dating a girl. And we grew up in Illinois, same house, like our entire lives. And my parents were moving, like we started that Christian church or that Christian school, started the church, like that was our legacy in our life. And my grandfather retired and my dad got a new job in Texas. And so we thought, if we don't go home, my boyfriend will never see the house that I grew up in. Like, this is our last chance to go home. Well, there were so many stupid rules, like you couldn't travel farther than 300 miles from school, and you couldn't go with your boyfriend, and you couldn't do this. And
These are school rules?
Yeah,
weird.
school rules.
It's
school
weird.
rules. All
It's
under the guise
weird.
of, like, safety. So we came up with this whole, like, you had to put a pass in, like, you had to, and they could deny it. Like, you had to put a pass in, like, request to go home, and they could deny it or approve it. So it was like me and my brother requested to go home, and my boyfriend requested to go to his grandparents in Florida, and my brother's girlfriend. So, like, we finagled it. We snuck off. We all met up at a Walmart parking lot and, like, got in a car and drove to Illinois.
Sounds like a fucking prison. I mean,
sounds
Jesus
like a-
Christ.
Same.
Like, you guys are doing like a drug deal.
I know. Like, is this Scientology? Yeah. Like, what the fuck?
A lot of it was just fear. It was fear-based, and it was, under, like I said, under the guise of, like, we're keeping your kids safe. They're going to be so safe here. But they don't know is that, like, the more rules you put in, like, we find ways to break them. Yeah. There was no trust involved whatsoever, from parents to kids or from school to kids. There's zero trust. So we snuck off. We go to Illinois. We have a blast for the weekend. We go to Chicago. We have so much fun, whatever. We come back. It's the four of us. It's understood. Nobody says anything. We don't even tell our friends. We don't tell our roommates. That is how you get caught. You literally keep it to the four of us. Well, my brother's girlfriend blagged her big fucking mouth to her roommates, who she knew were not...
What a little narc.
Little narc. She was doing it just to be like funsies. So they went and tattled on us.
Shut the fuck up.
Yeah. So I got pulled out of class.
Was she mad at her roommates, though? Like, I would have been so mad at my roommate.
No, because she knew. She was like, yeah, I knew that they weren't really like that. They were... I was like, then why would you
say
Why would you do that, Sarah?
Kaylee? Crazy Kaylee?
Stephanie?
I was like, are we making up names here? Yeah, we're making up names.
No, her name was Kaylee.
Oh.
Like, okay, Sharon.
So I got yanked out of my nutrition class, and I'd studied so hard for that quiz. Oh my gosh. I got yanked out of Miss Bushy's nutrition class. And I had to go to what's called student life. And it was like a committee. And there was one for the guys and one for the girls, and they would bring you in there. And
So a cult. I mean, it's like a cult in the cult.
Yeah.
Stop it.
And they would like question you. And the thing was, is they wouldn't just come right out and ask you. They would like try to get you to like catch you in a lie or whatever.
Damn.
So they had called my brother in first, and they were like, "We need your laptop." And he was like, "Why?" And they were like, "Someone said you have porn on it."
Can they legally do that?
I have no idea. There's no lawyer program there, so we couldn't ask.
Probably for a reason.
Probably.
Like, we don't want no lawyers here.
Yeah, I feel like I'm like listening to like a Law and Order SVU fucking episode.
Yeah, they
Can't be
said,
legal.
They said someone gave us a tip that you have porn on your computer. We need to look through it. I had just given that motherfucker all the pictures from the weekend, literally 3 hours before.
Oh my
And he put
God.
all those pictures on his computer. And so they were like, so he gets in there and he's like, I don't have porn on there. Mind you, my brother is in the pastoral program, right? Like he's learning to be a pastor. And they like flip his computer around. They're like, where were you this weekend? Like, okay, Tony Soprano. Like,
Jesus Christ.
he was like, I can't even lie about that. And so he's like, me and my sister and our boyfriend and girlfriend, we went home for the weekend. And they were like, so you were drinking? No, we weren't drinking. We literally just wanted to hang out at the house, and we went to Chicago.
And our parents were there.
And our parents were there. Our parents wanted us to come home. Like, it was our parents. And that's the thing is, my parents were not as strict as this school. Even though they sent me to this school, it wasn't like that strict.
Jesus.
At home. And so then they called the girlfriend in. And so I show up. I like walk into the book bag. I'm like, what's going on? And she's like crying. She's like,
fucking Kaylee.
She goes, don't lie. I was like, all right, whatever. So I walk in there and they're like, where were you this weekend? I said, I'm home with my boyfriend and I lied to you about it. I made up everything. I lied all about this. Because I was like, they already know. So I told them everything and they're like, okay, well, you guys are going to have to go to like a student committee where they're going to decide whether or not you can stay. I was like, man, I already know that I'm getting kicked out, whatever. So
whoa,
you would get demerits at this school, right? You know, like a normal college, you get like fined or something. You would get demerits, like you in high school. And I think if you got, I think it was like 150 demerits, you got kicked out. And they like added them all up. It was like 75 for lying and this. They added it all up and it was like 400 some odd demerits. I was like, whoop, I'm out of here.
What the fuck?
I don't mean to laugh because that is like so
no, it was
up.
hilarious.
But it's like the fact that is even real. Is
like, I'm thinking like a lie would be one.
me.
This would be one. This would be one. They're like, let me add this up real quick.
Yeah, it was like,
you're out of here.
Like attitude, you'd get 10 demerits, and for disrespect, you'd get 25, and for not taking your trash out, you'd get 3.
So you've had compliance ingrained in you, since you came out of the womb.
Yes.
Gilead.
What?
Sounds like Gilead in The Handmaid's Tale. It really fucking does.
I started watching that show and I got 6 episodes in and I could not.
Do you watch that show?
No, I don't think I could.
I don't think you could either.
I don't think I could.
I had to stop. I watched it and there's probably, for someone who has a lot of religious trauma, it's probably extremely fucking triggering.
And you know how like Game of Thrones, it's like something fucking crazy happens, but then there's like redemption.
Yeah.
When I watched Handmaid's Tale, I was like, does anything good ever happen to this person?
Yeah.
Like, can't somebody get murdered for her? I mean, really. Like, can't someone's head get chopped off?
But also in Game of Thrones,
get lit on fire by a dragon.
It's like dragons and shit, and you're like, that shit's not real.
Yeah, where I'm like,
this is real.
It felt so real.
Yeah.
And it felt...
That's why I haven't watched it, because I'm like, I feel like it would just make me angry. It would just make me mad.
So I want to fast forward to the part where you started going to therapy.
Right. So it was like 2019.
And why?
So the only thing that I can remember, so it's 2019, 18, I don't know, whatever it was. I had kind of hit this wall in my marriage and whatever. Been married at this point for about 5 or 6 years now. And that's where I was just like, this is not me. This isn't me. I don't know. And so my depression manifests in anger. And I was at work and I was just angry all the time. So angry to the point that like my hair was falling out. I was like had intense like cystic acne and I was gaining weight and all this stuff. And I was like, what is my problem? Just mad all the time. And was going to a holiday party with my husband and had like a total panic attack. And he got really mad at me and he was frustrated and I was frustrating. And I was like, because of course, growing up in religion, there was you didn't go to therapy, you didn't take drugs, you didn't do any of that. And so finally I was like, just fuck this. And I literally just called up looked up a free therapist, psychiatrist, and was like, I just need some kind of drug or something. Like I have to try something. And I did. I got in a little bit and they started me on Wellbutrin. And it was like, at the time, I thought it was great because I just started taking it and all of a sudden I could breathe. Like I could just breathe. And now I look back and I see that really it was, I wasn't connected to my body. I wasn't connected to my emotions. So I was feeling anger and depression and loneliness and all these things. And it was just all making me, and the drugs just numbed it all. Just totally flattened it. Which, like I said, at the time was just...
It's what you needed.
It's what I needed.
What you needed.
I needed a break. So it was great for like a long time. It was for like a year. I was like, this is great. But then it was, let's bump it up a little bit. Let's bump it up. Let's bump it up. Oh, well, Butrin's not working. Let's switch you to Effexor. Let's add in hydroxyzine. Let's add in Boost Bar.
Can I say something about that really quick? Because I don't think that people realize you can build up a tolerance to these medications.
Oh, yeah.
And so it's the same thing. Like, it's not going to be just 25 milligrams for the rest of your life.
No.
My stepdaughter, one of her friends got on, I don't remember what one, an SSRI, and within a month, bumped up. Another few months, bumped up.
Bumped up.
And I'm like,
or then they start mixing things.
16, 17-year-olds, like, what are the dangers of that?
Or like, okay, this combination is working, but now you're having trouble sleeping. Let's put you on this to help you sleep.
That's what happened to me.
That happened to you?
Yes, that's what happened to me.
Okay.
It was every 3 weeks at first. Every 3 to 4 weeks, I was going to see my psychiatrist. And then that psychiatrist, something happened. I got to get switched to another one. So then you got to, and the thing is, my appointments with my psychiatrist were literally 20-minute appointments.
So these were not like, you're going in and you're talking about your traumas,
like
and you're
our
talking about
psychiatrist.
like healthy coping skills, like, okay.
This was, I'm feeling depressed and I'm feeling kind of sad. And it was like, well, do you want to kill yourself? And it was like, well, I mean, maybe not like today, but, you know, and I was like, okay, well, then let's start you on this and see how it goes and call 911 if things get bad. They were literally scheduled for 20-minute appointments. And so I went and like got maxed all the way out on Wellbutrin, and which also is one of the side effects is it's an appetite suppressant. So I lost a lot of weight, which is great, until I couldn't eat anymore. Still, which then, of course, brought up all the stupid eating disorders that I had in high school. Then I went back into that mindset.
Fuck.
And then I was getting anxious. And so then we added me on Boost Bar. And then, like I said, I couldn't sleep. So take this hydroxyzine and take this. And there was something else I added. And so then finally it was like, well, the Wellbutrin's not working. We're going to switch you totally to Effexor. And it started all over again. The lowest dose of Effexor. Every 3 weeks, I get bumped up. And then I actually got switched to another psychiatrist. I had to start all over again with a third one. And then it was like, and so every time I get there, it was literally, this is how it started. Are you feeling okay? And I was like, no. No. And they're like, okay, well, and they would ask me, well, do you want to try something else, or do you just want to maybe stay with this dose for a little bit? And I was like, I don't know, man. You tell me. How am I supposed to know? Well, do you want to try something else? I was like, I guess. Like,
shit.
Because I don't know.
Like, not once, like, getting to the root of any of it.
No. It was, and so it got to the point where I was not actively trying to, like, off myself again, because that was, for a while, that's how it was. I'm talking, like, every waking moment I was thinking about, how can I, like, get out of this existence?
Yeah.
How can I get in a car accident? Can I do something? And then it was me wanting to do it myself. Well, then after I'd been maxed out on all these meds, it became total apathy. Like at one point I was driving home from work and I was getting ready to go through a green light and a car ran the red light and I went, damn, maybe next time. So close.
Fuck.
Like I wasn't going to run a red light, but if another car didn't hit me, it was like,
You wouldn't have cared.
Wouldn't have cared, right?
It would have been like doing you a favor.
Yes. And it just became such apathy, like, oh my God, can I just get in a car accident? Can I just do something? Can I just like, I don't know. Like I was just so tired of being here. And then I started getting angry again. And I know because people at work were like, are you okay? Are you okay? And I was like, at least I had the wherewithal to acknowledge like, things are getting bad again. And that's when little Miss Thang over here was all up on my Instagram. And I was like, something's different. Something is different. And I have to know. I have to know. Drugs. And I want the good ones. And I think I think I just messaged you on Instagram.
Yeah, I was going to ask. I don't remember how that happened. Because you and I kind of, after I left 9 Round and
yeah,
we kind of
just kind of faded out.
Well, we talked, but we didn't see each other.
No. Mm-mm. And I think, you were going through your own kind of physical struggles and you were dealing with that. And I didn't have your new number at the time, but I think it was just like I was dealing with my own and she was dealing with hers and we were both kind of in our own different, universes. And then when she came back on,
and I didn't realize what you were going through with your ex.
Well, nobody did.
Right.
Nobody did.
To be fair.
I mean, when we would hang out, Like, I had opinions,
Yes.
but it wasn't,
And
my place.
that was the thing too, even as much as I was dying for closeness and safety and all that, when Christine and I worked at 9 Round, I felt it in her. I felt it like this is a girl that I could really be friends with. And I always felt safe with you, but there was still, I did not tell everything because I felt guilty, like talking about my husband or going to you and talking about like, I struggle with sex and I struggle with this and I struggle with my body. And it's not that I didn't feel safe with you. It's just there was something that I felt kind of...
Maybe you didn't feel safe within yourself to share it.
I didn't. And a lot of shame kind of leads a lot of my reactions throughout my life. And I think there was shame like, hey, I've been married for 6 years and still don't like sex and still don't really like this. And still, I'm at this point, I'm 27. I have no idea what I'm doing with my life. And, now I'm like, hey, fuck it, whatever. I'm 33. I don't know what I'm doing.
Right. But I appreciate, you've never shared that with me. So I appreciate you sharing that with me.
Yeah.
Because now, like, it's very different. What we talk about.
Yeah,
okay.
It's very different.
Go on.
But that's the thing. I think I just messaged her on Instagram and was
You're
like,
what are you talking about?
Yes. I was like, you're doing something. Like, your hair is glowing and your skin is glowing and you're like, something is different and I need to know. Like, I need to know about it. And I had known, being in healthcare, I had known like ketamine treatments. I had looked into that a little bit, but it was just expensive. And people at work kind of talk about it, kind of don't. A lot of people that I work with, honestly, just don't really know. That's the thing. A lot of the doctors and stuff are just kind of like, I don't really know about that. So we got together. We just decided to go to brunch one day. And I think it was like a 4-hour brunch.
Literally.
And we sat at Wild Eggs and talked for 4 hours. And she told me everything. And I was like, fuck it, let's do it.
Sign me up.
I have to do it. I have to. And like, I did a little bit of research, but I kind of have this thing where if I think too hard about things, I freak myself out. So I just, I watched a couple of the Netflix documentaries and that was about it. And she showed up at my house and I was like, let's just fucking do it. I have no idea what I'm getting into. Let's just do it.
So how much did you take?
How much? 7? 5, I think. But I had never done any drugs, right? Anything. I had done like an edible once or twice and didn't really like it. And so I was literally had no earthly idea what to expect. And so I remember taking it and also thought this was like, this is going to take like 2 or 3 hours to kick in.
You were ready.
I took it and she was like, you might want to go pee now. And I was like, why? And she was like, just go to the bathroom and sit down. And I came and sat down. I sat down in my bed and I went, oh my God, this is so cliche. There's like rainbows. It was like a kaleidoscope. And I was like, this is like exactly what it's like in the movies. This is fake.
Is this even real?
Like, I thought the whole, you're going to see rainbows and unicorns. I saw rainbows and unicorns.
Oh, that was nice.
It was like a kaleidoscope in my room. I was like, oh, okay.
I probably was in my head thinking, will you just lay the fuck down and put your mask on?
Oh, man.
Oh, my God. So what came up for you? Like, what was that experience like after the rainbows and the unicorns stopped dancing?
So my intention for my journey was clarity was the word that I kept using.
That's a good one.
It is clarity. A good intention.
Because, so at the time, my husband and I had not officially decided that we were getting divorced. We were separated. We were still living in the same house, but we had been technically separated, like living in separate rooms for about a year, maybe. I think it was about that. We'd at least been kind of having these problems for a little bit over a year. And we were really back and forth, and what do you want, and what do I want? And it was like I knew what I wanted, but I wouldn't just come out and say it. And then I also, hope nobody at work listens to this, but like, I fucking hate my job, right?
I bet they feel the same, probably. I'd almost put money on that.
It was like, I just was so... just not happy in it. Wanted something new. I've been in that job for 10 years now and I started getting antsy. And so it was like, there was a new opportunity for me in healthcare and I didn't know whether I should take it or not. So I needed clarity on whether I should quit my job and clarity on whether I should get a divorce. And that's just what I kept saying. And I say this a lot. I need someone to just tell me what to do. Because my whole entire life, people have been telling me what to do.
Oh, shit.
Have not made decisions for myself, right? Ever. I need someone to tell me. I need someone. My poor sister. My sister, by the way, she is my soulmate. If you're listening to this, Abby, you are my fucking soulmate.
Younger or older?
She's 4 years younger than me.
I love her.
She is my world. And I talked to that poor girl every day. I was like, what do I do? And I think she eventually was like, just fucking make a decision. Do something. So bless her for listening to my crap. And it was just, so finally we get into this and I'm like, my intention is clarity. I need to know what to do. I need to know what decision to make. So, I kind of chill, meditate. I am just saying that over and over again. Got a little freaked out there for a little bit. So Christine made me put my mask on. I laid down and I laid flat. I was laying in my bed upstairs and I laid flat and I just kept getting this overwhelming sense to like, I need to be on my side. I need to be curled up. I need to be in the fetal position. And I sleep like that a lot. I get really freaked out if I sleep with my arms out or my legs straight, and I get freaked out in sex that way too. I don't like having my arm. I don't like feeling unmoored or like I sleep. I don't know if you can see, but I sleep with like my hands under my chin like this and curled up all the time, like a very protective stance. Wow. And I just had this overwhelming feeling like I need to be protected right now. I need to be curled up. And so I did. I curled up and I put one hand under my chin and I had one hand on top of my head. And I remember it being very dark, black, kind of getting a little bit scary. I remember Christine saying, if it's scary, that means it's something you need to move through. And I remember just making the conscious decision to move through, and it opened up and it was just white. I remember like whites and golds and kind of going through a tunnel and coming out and it being all white. And I don't have any very like specific visual things that I remember. It was a lot of just like a kaleidoscope. It felt like I was in a kaleidoscope kind of the whole time. But I remember a couple of phases. And the first one was that I just kept hearing the word mother over and over and over again. And it was like, at first it started off kind of soft, like mother, mother, mother. And then it was getting angry. And I felt like I was getting like bombarded. And I have a very, I don't know if difficult is a word, but my relationship with my mother is complicated, yes. And it's so like how you can love someone so much and then not agree with like anything. And it's so complicated. And also I kind of took it to is I do not want children at all. And I've known that for a while. But it's always been pushed on me. You'll change your mind. You need to. My husband wanted kids and he didn't really push me, but I knew he wanted them. And I just have always felt this overwhelming guilt and pressure of like, why do you not want to be a mother? Like, that's what women are supposed to do. You're supposed to want that. You're not feminine if you don't want to be a mother. And it was like this pressure of that, this complicated relationship with my own mother, just like pushing and pushing. And I was just curling up more and protecting my head and just, totally crawling into myself. And then all I remember was I kind of went through another kind of tunnel and came out. And it switched to the overwhelming.
You got this.
I just kept hearing enough. And it morphed into, I saw myself, not my child self. I saw myself in that very moment, exactly how I am. Look me in my eyes and say, you are enough as is. And it was like, for the first time in my life, I realized I can do it. I don't need anybody to tell me what to do. I don't need anybody to make my decisions. I can trust myself. I'm enough as is. And yes, I want that connection. It's so important. Friendships and, romantic relationships are so important. But I don't need them the way that I was clawing for them. And it was just over and over and over again. Enough, 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 enough. You are enough. Just over and over and over. And I don't know if...
Can I say what was happening from my end, please?
Like, this is going on in your mind.
I was sucking my
So I have to say it. I literally just spit.
Say it.
So she's curled up on the side in a ball, and she's rocking back and forth in bed, and she's patting her head, and she's sucking her thumb. And I was just like, I don't know what's going on in there, but
it's working.
Mothering of the young child
to hear, because just from my view, looking a little strange.
It was like this, and I was rubbing my head.
Oh yes, that's what you were doing. You would rubbing it, and you were
Yes.
patting it, and you kind of looked like you had like Tourette's.
Like, was she tweaking a little
Like,
bit?
it was
Yes.
like not like.
Sometimes I would come to, I would become a little bit more aware, and I had tangled my hand up, like my fingers in my hair, and I thought that I had like spider webs on them.
Oh my
And
God.
So then I would like freak myself out, and I was like, oh, it's just your hair. Okay, it's just your hair. And so, but I was trying to like calm myself, like pat myself. And I do this. The thing is I do this a lot at night. I don't know if other people, but I will like self-soothe. Like sometimes I wake up in the middle of the night and I will literally be like tickling my arm, or I'll sleep with my hand on my back and I'll scratch my own back.
Wow.
Like, because I want some kind of physical affection. And that's what I was doing. The whole time I was like telling myself that I was enough. And at one point I think I started whispering just, it's okay. It's okay. It's okay. It's okay. And I was like trying to calm myself down.
You were mothering
Oh
yourself.
yeah. Big mothering myself. Little baby.
Because you're
Look at
like,
my thumb.
you are a mommy.
I literally do that with my kids. Like, we'll rub their arms and their backs, and you know, while they're sitting with me or when they're trying to go to sleep. And like, you were literally mothering yourself.
Yes. Like,
in the way that you needed it.
and it was, like I said, I kept seeing me in my mind, like the me that I am now.
Oh shit.
Which I think was a little bit more, I can't think of the word, but it was the fact that I didn't see my kid self. I actually liked that I saw myself in that moment. And it was like, it's like I saw that is me. Like this is not
you, the way that you are.
the way that I am right now is the way that I'm supposed to be. It's not like, oh, I saw a version of myself that I could be, or I saw a version that I could work towards. It was like, no, this is how you are now, and you're really cool, and you're and you're really hot, and you're
We should hang out sometime.
We should hang out. And it's like, so I came out of it. I remember waking up, puking my guts up, and Christine holding my hair back, and I was just like gnawing on that trash can. I was just like, eh. And the funny thing is, though, is that right when I came out of it, I still kept asking Christine, did I do it right? Did I do it right?
Stop.
Yeah.
And I didn't really realize it until later, but I kept saying, did I do it right? Did I do what I was supposed to do?
Oh my God.
And she was like, you did so, of course, you did so great. You did such a good job. You're safe. Everything. But I just kept saying, did I do it right? Is that what was supposed to happen? And so I came out of it. And the funny thing was, I was still feeling it. And so I was sitting on my bed.
You weren't out of it.
I was out of the...
She's out of the peak of it.
I was out of the
thick
peak.
of it.
I don't know.
Well, she couldn't fucking talk. So she
Could not talk.
sat up, like took her mask off, and she was like this. I was like, it's okay. I was like, are you okay? And she's like, I don't know.
So, yep. And so I was sitting on my bed, and I remember I had like one leg off my bed and one leg straight. And I was just leaning up against it like this. And Christine was sitting on the end, because I was still seeing things. Like, I was still seeing the rainbows.
Was it also like, you see what I'm seeing? You're not? Oh, okay.
A little bit. Well, my problem is that whenever I get, like, when I smoke or edibles or anything, I get short-term memory loss. Like, I'll be saying a sentence and can't remember where I was, and so I continue to ramble. And that's what would happen. I would look at Christine, and I'd be like, right, Christine's in my room. And then I would, like, look out my window. I'm like, right, I'm in my bedroom. And then I'd look over at the bathroom and go, I did drugs. And then I would look straight forward, and I go, what happened? And I would do it all over again. And then I'd look at Christine.
So you were
and
in
go,
a loop.
I was in a loop.
Okay.
What felt like for hours.
Okay.
I don't know
was in
how
a
long
loop.
it really was. And so I'd like look at Christine again, and she was in the exact same position, just like on her phone. But she had like 6 eyes on her face. And I kept going, I know that's not real, but I am seeing it. It's not real, but I can see it. Her eyes were like blinking. And so then I'd do it again.
Because I didn't know what to do because you kept staring at me, but you weren't like looking at me. You were like looking
Through you.
like
Yes.
you were a little blank in there, and I
there
was
was a
just
lot
like,
of blank in there.
just don't make awkward eye contact. Do something on your phone because she just keeps staring at you.
She can't know. I know she knows she did drugs.
And she just wasn't saying anything.
No.
I was like, "Are you okay? Like, do you need some water?"
Well, and I kept thinking, like, where is my husband? He should be here. And I was like, oh, he's at work. Okay, that's fine. Because then I was like, does he know I'm doing this? I'm like, oh, yeah, he does. Okay, I told him. And then I just all over again. Until finally I looked at the bathroom and I went, wait, I have to go pee.
That snapped you out of it?
Yes. And I literally looked at her and I just went, I think I have to pee now. She was like, okay, why don't you get up and go, and I'll go downstairs and, like, get some food and some snacks. And I walked in my bathroom, and I went to look up, and I'm like, Christine said don't look in the mirror. So I, like, looked right back down. I was like, I don't want to see what's going on in there. I do not want to see. And it was like the moment I peed, it was like I broke the seal or something. And I came out of it. I walked out of the bedroom, and she was downstairs. I mean, I was still feeling high.
Sure.
But I walked out of the bedroom. She was downstairs getting food together, getting whatever. And I sat down on the side of my bed. And again, like I talk about how my trip was a lot of phases. And it was a whole nother phase. I sat down on the bed and I looked and I went, Christine's gone. But I am okay by myself. I'm like, it's so corny. But like that one little moment of me just sitting in my bedroom,
I don't even know if I knew that.
I am okay by myself. I went, I think I'll just sit here until she comes back.
Okay, first off.
And I did. And I just like sat there, like, la, 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 until
So
Christine came
that's
back.
like, I left her and she's like, I gotta go pee. And I was just like, okay. So I let her go pee. And like, that's how I left her, where she was like, the whole time. And I come back, she was wearing sweatpants.
No, I was wearing spanky pants.
Well, I thought you took the sweatpants off and then you had the spanky pants shorts underneath it.
I don't know.
Okay.
I had this like,
You did. Listen.
I think I got really hot.
You were fucked
Listen,
up.
Linda.
Okay?
I almost fucked up.
Listen, Linda.
So she took off the pants and then she had like the spankies on. And it was like a brand new person. I was like, what happened? She's like, hi. And I'm like, hey. She's like, I love myself. I am one hot ass fucking bitch. And I was just like, yes, you are. And then
I remember I kept asking her, did I get taller? And she was like, no. I was like, yes, I did.
okay.
Look how tall I am. She was like, okay.
So then she like stands up and starts like looking in her like body mirror, and she's like literally like dancing around the room, and she's like, I am so fucking sexy. And like,
I was like this.
yeah. Okay.
Oh, shit.
Over
Then
myself.
she starts like turning around. She's like, I have a great ass. I have a great ass. And I have cellulite. But who gives a fuck? Like, I love my legs. I love my body. I was low-key worried you were going to figure yourself in front of me.
I almost did.
I think I literally texted Tony. And I was like,
I was feeling
I feel like I
something.
shouldn't be here right now.
one,
was
I
feeling
think
it.
she's bisexual.
Yeah.
I know.
can't believe I never told you that. I wanted to have sex with you so bad at 9 round. So bad. I would go when I was just a member, I would go when Christine was working. Because I had such a crush on her.
Oh my God. You and Laura.
Yeah. Yeah,
Oh
because
my
I
God.
didn't want to go when Jason, the man instructor, was there because he told me I had a nice butt, and I was like, ew. I want to go when Christine's there.
This is amazing. Confessions.
Damn it. We could have had fun at 9 round.
Yeah,
Oh
a lot
my
of fun.
God.
A lot of fun.
Okay. But I texted Tony and I was like, I don't know. Like, I'm like really worried she's going to have sex with herself. And I'm here. And he's like, oh, wow.
Oh, wow.
And he was just like, be careful in those streets.
Well, so my like biggest insecurity is my cellulite over my legs, right? Had it even when I was in high school when I was on my absolute thinnest. It just thick thighs, cellulite. And it was like, I had never seen myself like that before. Like, I was wearing these short little spanky pants, looking in my full-length mirror, just thinking, do I look like this all the time? And I kept asking her this, is this how I've always looked? And she was like, yes. And I was like, nuh-uh. And she was like, yes.
No. And she'd be like, stop, you're lying.
I was like, I really, like, this is what I look like? And she was like, yes. And I don't know if it was like body dysmorphia had taken over my life for the last, it was like a veil had been lifted and I saw myself the way other people saw me.
The other thing you would do is you were like laying in the bed and you're like, you would lay in bed and you would be like,
like caressing yourself.
and I'd be like,
I was like this on my sheets, like rubbing my sheets like this. And I was like,
oh my God.
I was like, she was just curled up on my bed in my blanket. And I was like kneeling on the bed. And then I'd like fall off the bed and I'd be like kneeling on the floor. And then she was in the middle of something and I went, do you want to have sex with me? And she was like, no. I was like, okay. But really? She was like, probably not.
And she would get on all fours. She'd like get on all fours and start, I can't even say it, start rubbing the sheets and like,
Oh my God.
And then like at one point I was just up and it was like, I cannot even show. I was like walking like this back and forth. I have like a lot of room in the end of my bedroom and it was just
solid 2
back
hours.
and forth like this for 2 hours.
Yeah, solid 2 hours of
I don't
this.
know what I talked about. I told her everything that I went through and then I told her like,
Let's talk about your books.
oh man.
Let's talk about your books. So in her room, on one wall, she has just books that are stacked on the floor and on top of each other and like piled so high. And I was just like, how? I was like, what? Like, what the fuck? Like, this is a lot of books. Like, I mean, this is great, but like, you should go do some stuff now. Get out a little.
Go
like,
live.
Could you just explain to me this situation over here? I was like, those are my universes. Like, those are my books. And she was like, yes, what is happening? It was just like, I love to read. Read a lot when I was a kid, right? Like Harry Potter, Hunger Games, like all the fantasy stuff. You know, then you get to college and you stop reading because when you have to read like anatomy and physiology, then you don't.
Yeah, you don't want to read anymore.
Yeah.
No.
It takes the fun out of it.
And then when I was in my 20s, it was like, I can't read fantasy. People will think that I'm, you know, weird or childish, whatever. And so I would try to read these like historical books or these memoirs. And I was like, man, my life is miserable enough. The last thing I need to do is read about somebody else's miserable life. Like, no offense, I do not want to read about like the tattooist of Auschwitz. Like, I don't, that's not like,
It's depressing.
I think I'm going to relax and read about, no. And so it just like hit me that I was like, I don't know. I just want to, it was in 2020. I think it was the end of 2020 or maybe it was 20, I don't know, whatever. Fuck ever. I was like, I'm just going to read a goofy book, whatever. And so I read the fairy book, the fairy porn book, A Court of Thorns and Roses that are like really, really popular on TikTok, and it's literally fairies. Not like Tinkerbell fairies, more like elves, right? And side note, Legolas was my biggest crush growing up, so that's probably where that all started from. I had a life-size Legolas poster, you know, Orlando Bloom.
No idea who you're talking about.
From Lord of the
Rings.
Never seen it.
Orlando Bloom with the long
I
blonde
know what
hair
you're talking
and
about.
the elf
pointy
ears.
Oh, that's your thing?
That was in high school. I had a life-size poster of him, so that must have been where it all originated. So I was like, you know what? I'm just going to read the fairy book, whatever. Loved it, obsessed. And I was like, is this what I've been missing? Because I think that people might think that I'm weird if I tell them that I read the fairy books. So I just read it, and it just like totally, and because then I went into the whole like, why don't I start reading romance, right? Like, why not? I can read trashy romance. Oh yeah, that opened up a whole new thing.
That was your porno.
Do you think, I listened to this podcast on Dax Shepard's podcast. I listened to an episode with him, and it was this woman who studies addiction and addictive behaviors, and she talks about it because she herself helped people with addictions, but was also addicted to fantasy porn books.
Oh.
Because it was like an escape for her, the way that alcohol is an escape for other people. It's like you're living this like alternate reality. You're able to escape your life for a little bit. And like, so do you feel like that's kind of what it was? Like you were getting something out of those books that like you
definitely
weren't able to.
It was 100% an escape for me. Like,
oh, fuck.
Because I was getting really overwhelmed with like Instagram and TikTok and all that, and kind of morphing back into that, like seeing the way that, comparing myself to the way that other girls looked on social media and stuff. And so you read a book, you can read about anything.
Yeah.
There's books about plus size women, or me have this weird thing. It doesn't matter how the main characters are described. I picture myself. And like, I always pictured myself. You read about monsters, fairies, whatever, like whatever you want, you can find it. And I used it totally as an escape. And got a little addicted. I still like to read, but I try to like branch out maybe a little bit. I don't know. Right now I'm reading a lot of gay monster romance, so whatever.
You're morphing.
So hot.
Monster romance.
Gay monster romance?
I didn't even know this was a thing. I literally didn't know this was a thing.
What's a gay monster romance book?
So Lily Mayne is the author, and she has a whole series called the Monster series, and it's like a post-apocalyptic world. And there was like a tear in between worlds, and all these monsters came through, right? But they're not all like animal ones. Like a lot of them are like humans. And so it's like 20 years after this has happened, and it's like it's male, and it's like a human guy and a monster guy.
You are so fascinating to me.
I know.
It's like, and I mean that in the best way possible.
Okay, I need to ask this though. Like you said in the beginning, like you're bisexual, and you said just then, like, when did you know that about yourself, and when were you able to accept that about yourself?
It kind of became, I probably didn't do it right, because I like to say when I was like 25, 26 is when I started coming more into myself, acknowledging that like I needed to be,
this might be a thing.
That like things that I'm feeling like regarding religion and regarding just a lot of the way that I was raised is not what I truly believe, and really started to dig into like what I believed in, because it's what I believe in and not what I'm told.
Right.
And so around that time, I kind of did the whole like, yeah, girls are so cute, and like that girl's so hot, and like a little bit of like I probably didn't do it right, but like, oh my God, I'd totally kiss her, but I don't know if I'd have a relationship with her. Like,
yeah, she's cute.
She's just like, I would have stuck my tongue down her throat, whatever. Like, so it started morphing into, and then I was like, are you really attracted to women, Alyssa? Is that something, or are you just trying to be like quirky or fun? Like what, like you really need to dig into that, because you can't sit here and be like, I'm half a lesbian on my mother's side, but like, I guess like, I was like, you need
like a quarter.
Like you need to figure it out. And so I kind of started looking back and realizing that in high school, I played a lot of sports in high school. And so, we'd go on tournaments and things like that. And you'd go to other schools and you'd play against all these other schools. Yeah. And I would get so jealous of like certain girls. Like there was this one girl and I was jealous of her all the time. And I was like, oh, that girl is so pretty and good and perfect and everything she does, and her legs are so nice, and like, oh, and she has beautiful hair. And it was like, I was not mad at her because I was like, oh, she's a mean girl. I was like,
I love her.
Frustrated with how beautiful she was. And so then now I was like, oh, you had a crush on her.
Oh, that's what that was.
I'd get really jealous sometimes of girls and couldn't figure out why, like certain girl, and there was no reason. You do the whole like, I don't like her and I don't have a reason. And I would do that. Like, I just don't like that girl and I don't know why. And it was like, oh, you had a crush on her.
And you were scared of that.
Yeah, and I didn't know how to determine that that's what it was, because that was, not allowed. And so it's kind of morphed now to where I am bisexual. I am still more male leaning because also did a lot of research into, because I always thought like bisexuality was 50-50, right?
Yeah.
50 women and you're 50% men. And that's what it is. And it's not. It's all fluid. It's all, you know, you can be 70-30, you can be whatever. And I feel like
what if you're like 99% male, but then there's like always that one girl crush?
that's just gay. That's GFY, gay for you.
Gay for you.
Yeah. Like you are straight, but you are GFY for her.
Oh, wow.
Did you make that up?
No,
It's probably
that's
a
from
thing.
a book.
It's like
It's from books.
yeah.
Or what do they call it? What do they call it? Like heterofluid or something. You know what I mean?
We were talking earlier about how until something pertains to your life or affects you personally, there's really like, you don't have a reason to go down these rabbit holes. You don't have a reason to like research this stuff. I was saying that because like my husband's sister is trans, and that was a big thing in our family system. And I knew so much about it because it affected us. And my aunts are lesbian, and I knew so much about that. Like, and it's like, I've never thought about the fact that like, oh, well, you have had to go down this rabbit hole because it is directly affecting your life. Am I making any sense right now?
Totally.
Oh, you are.
Okay.
Totally.
Because I
You
think we
always ask
all
that.
do that. I know. I'm looking for a hand to hold. A verbal hand. Am I making sense? I think we always do that. Like we forget that there is stuff happening outside of our realities and things that people need to learn and understand outside of what we think we need to learn and understand that affects them.
Yeah, totally. That makes sense.
I think as long, like for me, it became, as long as I'm showing an empathy with them, I can say like, I might not fully understand what you're going through, or I might not fully understand, like the first time I met someone who was non-binary, I was like, I don't really get it. But instead of being like, I don't get it, it was like
Tell me about it.
Tell me about it. I
wanna
I
understand.
haven't looked into that. I don't really understand it. Are you comfortable sharing with me? And it became, and then what it kind of led me to is that, especially amongst sexuality, is it's what you say it is, to be honest with me. Because I was very much like are you a bisexual? Are you a heterosexual? Are they gay? And then it was like, I don't know, you are who you are.
Like whatever you want
like
to
who
be.
you like, because for the longest, because then now even lately I've kind of realized like I just like people. And I said it before, because people sometimes at work will make, I don't have a type. Like in college, I dated a 5'7" ginger guy, and I dated a 6'5" blonde haired, blue eyed surfer guy. And I like so many different kinds of people. And so then I went through this like, am I pansexual? And then I went, I don't really fucking care, because I just like who I like. And I kind of got over the label. So like I do label myself, like I'll say like I'm bisexual, but in reality I just like who I like, no matter who it is.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Because it became interesting because like I would say to my sister, like, you really, like you would never with a woman? And she was like, no. And I was like, I like the straights, I can't understand them. In the same way that like someone is
like
like
full straight.
You're full straight. That's true. But then same with like a woman who's like, I am 100% lesbian. I'm like, you don't even find guys straight. And they're like, no. And I'm like, but boys are so cute.
But
like,
like, a little bit.
like
But Orlando Bloom from Lord of the Rings.
And they're like, no, I was into, I don't even remember the chick's name. From Orlando Bloom, the Legolas, but like the other one.
Well, goddamn.
Mick Jagger's daughter or
Liv
something.
Tyler.
Oh,
Liv
Liv Tyler. That's
Tyler.
right.
Steven Tyler's daughter. Mick Jagger's daughter.
Mick
Yeah, I like her
Jagger's
too.
daughter.
They're all the same. Mick Jagger, Steven Tyler.
I get that way with anybody. I'm like, how do you just not like everyone? Everybody's hot. All the time. Everybody's hot.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
I'm going to manifest this. Someone's going to listen to this podcast episode one day and be like, that Allie. I'm curious to get to know her.
Give me some of that.
Because, like, you are, I just think you're a really special person.
So she's going through a divorce, about to be on the market.
Healing.
Also big. That's the big important part. Like, I feel like dating these days should be like, what are you doing to heal your trauma in your childhood?
I actually just talked to my therapist about this yesterday, and I think I've talked to you. It sounds very pretentious, but I'm realizing I have a hard time being around people that are not doing the work. Yeah.
We say that all the time.
It's hard.
It's very difficult.
It is. Like I can have a very surface level, you're at work. Yeah, we can joke, we can talk, and like I can have fun with you. But after a little bit, I'm going, I'm so exhausted. Why am I exhausted? Why am I tired? And I'm going, we haven't been talking about anything like deep.
No.
It's hard when people are not.
And imagine people who you've known your entire life and they're expecting you to stay the same and think the same.
Yes.
We had this conversation about how exhausting it is to put a mask on. Yeah. That's what it feels like.
Yes.
Like I have to go be around people who don't understand who I am or what I have to say.
Or want to understand.
Yeah.
They make fun of me behind my back. I'm going to have to go to this thing and pretend to be interested in the same old shit that they all talk about.
And then you pretend and they go, that girl's so fake.
Right.
You're like, what do you want from me?
Or she's different.
She's different.
Or she was quiet. Or that was weird. And I feel like I come home and I'm like, I don't want to do that again for a while.
Yes.
It's very difficult.
Yes.
So
I even said at work, I was, I go to work and I am like the class clown, the flirty, the jokey, sarcastic, the feisty. And I got
coping mechanism.
Yes. And I got real quiet one day and someone said to me, it was a guy, he was like, what's wrong with you? Like, you're not. And I was like, oh, work Alyssa had to take a break. And he was like, what are you talking about? I said, you realize that none of you people know me, right? Like, this is not me. Because he was like, you're so fun. I was like, I'm actually not. I'm a very boring person. Like, I'm not. I can be, but I was like, this is work, Alyssa. This is not. This is my
Alyssa. Mask.
Yes, this is
my work mask.
Like, I am. Like, yes, I am the work comedian. Sure, I'll come in and I'll make everybody laugh for my 12 hours and then go home. It's whatever. And then I only work 2 days a week. And so, like, the days that I'm off work, I'm just like, oh, thank God. Oh, I don't have to do that. I don't have to be, like, funny or, I don't know.
It's that I just retired, like, a couple weeks ago from my job because that's what it felt like. Like, putting on this mask every day. And there were very few people who knew me. And I love and appreciate them. Because I could just be me. And one day, like, a client left a sticky note on my table when she left. And when I went back in the room, it said, don't hide your woo. I was like, oh, if you only knew that, like, sometimes I have to. Yeah. Like, I don't want to, but, like, I just feel like other people don't know how to respond to this.
And I think it's just because now seeing it, you see that everybody else is also masking. And is also doing that, and they're just afraid. And that's where, like, when people are like, oh, you do drugs? And I'm like, yes, I want everybody to be happy. And like, but I think like that sometimes. Like, I will look at people now, like at work or my family, and I'm like, if you did drugs, your life would change. You should totally have a trip.
There's like another side to living, right?
It's like I feel like I almost, again, it sounds so pretentious, but I feel like I have the key. And I'm like, do you want to hear about it? And, I was very nervous because, like I said, I worked in healthcare. And I was very nervous, and I hope nothing bad comes from this, but I was nervous to talk about it at work. Working around a lot of doctors and all that, you're afraid that some of them are very set in their ways. And it's like, no, we don't deal with that.
Western medicine only.
I got really good reactions from a lot of my coworkers, like a lot.
That's awesome.
And even more so is the biggest compliment to me is that I've had many of them come to me like unprompted and say, you are very different and it's very refreshing and I can see that things are changing for you. I've had a lot of them say, you seem to be doing really well.
That's what I was going to ask next is like where you are now, how long it's been, like what that integration process, you don't have to like give me all the details, but like.
Well, so it was October Right. So I think we figured out it's been like, what, 8 months? I can't count.
You could.
I know my colors. I don't
I
know
think
my
you're. I think you're due for another.
7 months.
I
8
think
months.
I am due for another. It's been obviously highs. Like I rode that high for like 3 weeks after that trip.
That mushroom cloud.
Yes, big time. And then like immediately, and I made it a point to immediately get into therapy. I was like, I can't screw around and wait. So I was actually with the guy who was our couples therapist, just because he already kind of knew.
Yeah.
And so I think I did 2 or 3 sessions with him just on our own. And he actually was like, I don't think this is enough. He was like, I can tell that you really want to heal and you want more, and this talk therapy is not enough. And so he sent me to his colleague.
I
Yes.
love that.
And I thanked him profusely because he was like, he was like, if you want to, he was like, we can keep doing this once a week and we can talk for the next 10 years. He was like, but I think that there's something better for you. He explained EMDR to me. He was like, I'm just not qualified. He's like, but I think that you would do so much better with that and it'll get you where you want to go faster.
I love that.
Yes,
and he knew you did mushrooms and everything.
Yes.
See, okay, so that's another thing we've talked about is like not all therapists are equipped to help you through this integration process. Mm-hmm. And it is important to find someone who knows what you did and how to help you navigate through it.
Yes, how to integrate it.
Yes. And he was very like, he did that like, I just don't really know, but I know people that are doing that. And like, it wasn't like, ooh, be careful. Or it was this immediate like acceptance. And and something that was very healing is that, so he sent me to his colleague within his practice and I'm with her now. And I don't know about the two of them personally, but I know that it is a Christian practice. And it's very healing that the two of them, that I'm getting that from 2 people that are Christian.
Wow.
That I never thought that I could get from religion. I have a lot of anger still towards religion, and that the two of them are so accepting and are so open and are not, they're never pushing. It's not, I don't know how to explain it. They're so empathetic and they listen and they're so good and they take everything that I give them. And it was very healing that I'm getting that from a Christian practice. Even though I might not be going back to that religion, it still was like, it kind of healed a little part of me where I like,
there are some,
they're all judgy and they're all hateful and it was like, okay, that's your own, trauma that's talking towards that whole group of people. And my 2 therapists have very much kind of brought that out of me. And, so now I'm doing EMDR. I do it every week. Still feeling a little stuck. Recently, and because I just went to that body, what was that thing we went to?
Oh, women's embodiment.
The women's embodiment circle. And I said when we were there that I had said I've been feeling stuck, and I've been feeling very disjointed from my body. I started going back through another like, I hate the way I look and I hate the way I feel and I hate all because I'm like have gained weight again, feeling very stuck. We went to that women's embodiment thing, which was massive. Like for me, like huge. I would never do that before ever.
Well, and me neither. Hearing what you talked about in the beginning of this, like feeling like being the good girl, the session that you went to was so perfectly themed.
Yes.
Like that was divine. Like that was not a coincidence. You needed that session.
Reading when she said like, what are the things you've done to be a good girl? And I was like, excuse me, can I have another hour? And write in my journal? I have a lot to put down. And that kind of kickstarted it. And then, so now I think the biggest thing for my trip is that I used to feel things and not know what I was feeling and not know what to do with them. And now I can sit here and I can sit on, I do this a lot where I just sit with myself, whether it's meditation or not. And I sit with myself and I go, what are you actually feeling, Alyssa? Are you actually frustrated? Are you anxious? Are you whatever? And lately I've been sitting with myself and it's like, okay, you're feeling a little stuck again. And I can get myself out of it. I used to, when I would feel all these things, I would just go into, which one is it? Is it fawn mode?
Fight, flight, fawn, freeze.
Freeze. I go into freeze. Legitimately will lay in my bed for hours and just like stare at the ceiling when I get so overwhelmed with like emotions. And so now I can get myself out of those cycles a lot easier. And I can tell myself, like, you're not actually anxious, whatever, like you're saying, you know what I mean? I just am a lot more connected with the actual emotions that I'm feeling, as opposed to them just being like totally dampened and me just like laying in bed for hours. And so I do feel like I'm due for another one. There's a little bit of fear now because now I almost know what to expect. And so now I'm going, oh, what's it going to bring up?
But then also you know what comes out of it.
But I know what comes out of it, yeah.
And I do want to, like, when we say doing the work, and I don't want people to think that we're saying, like, if you're not doing mushrooms, you're not doing the work.
Oh, yeah.
We say this a lot, like, that's not the only thing we do. Like, we do that somatic practicing. We do talk to our psychiatrist when we need to, and we do have people that we are safe with and open up to and talk to. So, like, the doing the work part is not the mushrooms. Mm-mm. That's not even, like, you're just going to have a good time. Probably a bad time. Mm-hmm. Maybe a little bit of both.
A really good bad time.
But they were a really good bad time. That's perfect. But then, like, the doing the work afterwards is the part that's transformational.
Yes.
And you can be doing that before you ever do a journey. It's fucking hard work.
Yes. And it's never ending. And that's something that I have to remind myself a lot, is that I'm like, sometimes it hits me. It's like, you will fight your battle with depression for the rest of your life. It's not going to get cured. It's not going to get, and then I realize that it might always be there, but it's not going to be this huge mountain totally overtaking my life the way that it used to be. I can get it manageable, and I can, it might still be there, but at least now I feel like I have the tools and I have the confidence in myself to figure it out. It just was so, before this, it was so, I don't know how to put it. I just did.
Like, it consumed you.
It consumed. And I would tell people literally every waking moment, from the moment my eyes opened, I would go, I don't want to do this. I don't want to be here. I don't want to be on this earth. I don't want to be alive. Every waking moment. It was exhausting. So then when people go, how are you? I'm tired. And it's not like, I'm tired because I didn't sleep well. I'm tired because I am constantly fighting to stay alive. Literally I have this tattoo on my hand, just one more. I got that on my birthday last year. So when I turned 32, I got it. And I got just one more, and I got it on my hand specifically because this is the hand that I drive with. And when I drive, how many times I've gone, what if I just...
Like that TikTok?
Yes, like...
What if I just...
No. And, like, there's been so many times where I've been driving and been like, just let go of the wheel. Just put your cruise control and let go of the wheel, Alyssa. Just do that. And so I got it on my hand so that when I'm driving, I can see it all the time. And just one more is like, just whatever it is that I need to get through. Just one more hour, Alyssa. Just one more day. Just one more second. If you can make it just one more second, and then we'll figure it out. If you can make it just one more second, and then we'll figure it out. And I had to do that, and it was exhausting. And this trip has allowed me to just breathe for the first time in my life. To just sit there and see the whole picture and pick out my emotions and go, okay, let's figure it out now. Let's figure out where we go from here.
I'm so proud of you.
I am like, bitch, this is like so pretty. But I've been thinking a lot about like the depression too. Like, this is just, I'm going to have to deal with this for the rest of my life. I used to think like that. Mm-hmm. And then every time that I've had to like go back to doing another mushroom trip or like pulling myself out of this hole, I've had this realization that like the depression for me is because I was so disconnected for so long. Mm-hmm. So anytime I can almost like pinpoint the triggers that happen that send me back into another depression. And it's when I'm feeling disconnected. Mm-hmm. So now my goal is to try to remain connected for as long as possible, or to have these practices of coming home to myself or feeling into my feelings in my body. Mm-hmm. Because the moment I start letting go of that is when I can see myself going back into those like depressive episodes.
Yes. You just feel so unmoored, just so floating.
Yeah.
And it's terrifying. to be floating out there. And yes, I need that connection of Christine, and I need the connection of Leah and my sister and my younger brother to just bring me back in and remind me that I am loved.
Yeah.
As I am right here in this moment.
You are enough.
I am enough. And yes, it's those connections that just, and I think sometimes depression, you know, and anxiety and all these things, you have those connections, but it's blocking them. You can't see them. Because there were, you know, like I said, attempted suicide at 17, 21, and 31. And the 31, so just a couple of years ago, was again, it was when my husband and I told him to leave, I told him to get out, and I was sitting at the top of my stairs, and I sat there and went, there's nobody I can call. Nobody. And I drank a bottle of whiskey, and I took a bunch of sleeping pills, and I started to self-harm again. And luckily my husband felt something, and he called me, and he FaceTimed me, and he saw that I was doing things, and he came back and he got me out of it. But the funny thing is days later when I sat there and I thought, you were sitting there thinking there is no one on earth that you could call. And now I'm sitting there going, there's my sister. There's 3 people from work I could have named. There's Christine. There's my neighbor. I had all these people I could have called, but it overcame. It lies to you. It lies to me. It overcame me in that moment so heavily that I could not remember a single person in my life. And that's where, you know, a lot of people, suicide is selfish and suicide is a lie, because your brain is so in that moment where you lose your sense of self to the point where you actually want to take yourself out. It's so outside of your mind. It's a bad version of being high. It's being so high and outside of your mind, just in a very dark place. The fact that I couldn't recall my sister's name in that moment to pick up my phone, and I could not put my sister's name in my phone to call her because it had lied to me that. And so that's where this is, again, so kind of cliche and whatever, but lifting that veil, and this trip has just shown me that, like, in those moments I go, nope, stay away. Like, I have connections. I have people in my life. I have people I can call, and I just need to reach out to them.
Yes.
And it's just created a space for me to be able to breathe and to sit for a second and, like, acknowledge things instead of just like, my life is so miserable and I'm just going to off it right now because I don't have anyone. And it's like, my brain has totally, my thought process is just entirely different after just this one journey, one trip. And that's where I feel like I'm holding the key, and I just want to be like, hey,
you are the medicine.
Let's all do drugs. And everybody can feel the way that I feel. It's just, I've told people at work when they're like, oh, so it was really good. And I'm like, it's life-changing. Life-changing. And I've told a couple people, if I hadn't have reached out to you, and if I hadn't have done this, I can say with complete certainty, I would not be here right now. I would not. I tried enough times to take myself out of this earth, and I was going to be successful one of these times. And if it had not been for this, no, with 100%, I would not be here right now. It's not just life-changing, it's life-saving. Truly.
I'm happy that you're here. I want you to pull one of these for her because you know her better than I do. I should also say that, like, I only met you the one time at the Women's Embodiment Circle. And It was, like, very, like, quick, and, like, we didn't have a lot of time to chat.
But this is one of those things now where I can say, like, I feel so safe with you already. There's just such, like, I even said it to Christine. I felt it, I don't know why, I think her name's Lindsay, the one who ran it.
Yeah.
You know, for a long time I was like,
Lindsay Love.
Like, I can't go to Pilates. They're all snotty and whatever. And I met the girl and I was like, man, I feel safe with her. It's like I have this kind of sense now where I'm like, when I meet someone, I'm like, they're a very safe person.
You can feel that?
Yes, I can feel it. Like, I feel like I can open up to them and I feel safe with them, and I feel, whether it's this deep, life-changing relationship or not, like, that is a person I can go to, that I can be with. I feel that with you.
Oh, thank you. I love you.
I love you.
Do you want to have sex?
Oh my God, yes. Yes. And Christine can watch and be so jealous. OnlyFans.
Oh, fuck. I mean, she's not married yet. Just kidding.
We'll put our OnlyFans link in the bottom.
That's how we make money.
I do have cute feetsies.
Ooh.
Not me. I am keeping my toes up here.
Some people like that too. Whatever.
Okay, we're doing this thing. We just started doing this. These cards are called the Skin Deep. They have like several different decks. Mm-hmm. So far, we've done this twice so far, and this is supposed to be the amusing friend edition. They have not been that amusing, so hope maybe you can like put a spin on it. But that's why I'm like, you pick a card.
Okay.
We're not going to draw one.
Okay.
Describe a time where your failure resulted in the best thing that could have happened.
Oh God, I hope he doesn't. Again, I say this
With love?
with love, not to hurt his feelings. But getting married to the man that I married. Failure. Some people might call it a failure because we're divorcing. I don't say it as that. But it brought me to Kentucky. Brought me to you. It brought me to the people that I have, the job that I have. And it, I mean, I don't know if I would call it a failure necessarily, but I guess you could say that the divorce is probably the failure that has brought me. I've never felt more myself, more secure in myself, more at peace than when I finally said, it's time for this to be done and for me to move on.
Still not amusing. But
amusing.
holy fuck.
But
that was beautiful.
That was, because, that was the one thing I thought that was, like, I didn't think that I could.
I think that's why you had a hard time letting go.
Yeah, I can't live in a house by myself. I have to work by myself. Who's going to take my trash out? Who's going to mow my lawn? He still does. But
You got that.
Yeah.
Perfect.
But yeah, it was, I saw that a lot as like the biggest failure that I could ever experience would be if I got divorced. Like, my parents are going to have to tell people that their kid got divorced, and I'm going to have to tell people that I got divorced. And I've never felt more at peace. But with all love to him, I still do love him dearly.
Yeah, you guys sound like you're really good friends in this. He sounds like a really good, supportive
He is.
He's a good guy.
He is a good guy.
partner.
He's a good guy.
And he sounds like he wants what's best for you. And
I think he loves you so much. He wants you to be happy and find yourself.
He
and
does.
he knows that he's probably not equipped to do that.
Yeah, and he's told me that multiple times, and it's such a weird feeling to love somebody that much, but to know that you need to not be together.
Yeah. And I stressed working with you because I knew what the answer was going to be. And I didn't want him to like be upset with me. But also I think he knows that it
knew
was
too.
the right answer too.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. I did.
Yeah.
all right, we got to wrap this up. But I am so grateful to know you now.
I love you so much.
Can you like send me her number?
Yeah. You're
For friends.
You're friends now.
For
whatever. Whatever.
but I
Jason
also
doing anything
feel
later?
like there might be some people. Oh shit! We're not telling Jason that. I feel like there are some people who can like hear your story and relate so fucking hard.
Yeah. And that was what I told Christina. I was like, what the fuck am I supposed to talk about?
I knew. I've been pushing for you to come on here. Really
I love
hard.
to ramble.
No, it was not rambling. It's necessary, and I love this whole journey for you.
You're my favorite.
Stop it. Really?
This crush is coming back. Like, you're never gonna live that down. So thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
This is always a safe place for you. You can come hang out with us anytime.
Hell yeah.
Okay. And for all of our listeners, we'll see you guys on the other side.